I just finished replacing all these belts in the 560 engine. It was actually enjoyable because I didn't hit my head. See that? Isn't that nice? Having that hood up high like that, you get a lot of light down here. You don't have to worry about your poor old head here. I just finished installing all new Continental V-belts on this 560 SL engine. And I'm ready to reinstall the fan and the fan shroud. And I want to encourage any of you thinking about doing this job. This is a DIY job. And along with my complete set of 5 belts, I have a very long, it's over 45 minutes long, video instructions on how to do this and get all the belt tensions correct. But I want to talk about some of these other things. If you've got the fan shroud off, the fan off, and you're working on the front of these 560 or 420 engines, there's a number of other things that you should check. I already told you about the importance of checking all the pulleys and all the bearings when the belts are off, but there are some other things that you should consider looking at closely and replacing before you put the new belts on. This would be an excellent time to replace the water pump if you have any indication of movement in these bearings, any noise, or any evidence that you're dripping coolant out of this overflow tube here. The pump sits in here like this, and if you're going to replace the pump, there's a couple of other things to consider as well. Now, I've noticed looking at some of the forums on the internet, there's some real confusion on where the thermostat resides on these engines. Because even if you're not going to replace the water pump, you probably want to replace the thermostat unless you know it's been replaced in the last 5 years. Now, you look at these housings here, and I know where the confusion comes from. You have a housing here and you have a housing down there. I've seen people ask on the forum, hey, I've got this 560 engine, where's the thermostat? And somebody will come on and say, hey, the thermostat's right here, right behind this top radiator hose. And the poor guy takes this housing off and there's no thermostat there. Well, on the 380 engines, the thermostat is here. And that's where the confusion comes in. But on these engines, the thermostat is located right down here. So you can replace the thermostat without removing the water pump. And I'm going to show you what the thermostat looks like and where it sits. It's a little bit different than other thermostats. It's very long, and it sits down right in here. And you can see where it opens and closes back in here inside the water pump. The other thing on these engines that I've noticed hardly ever gets replaced is this little short hose. This little coolant short hose is a heavy-duty hose, and it's hidden right in here. And if you look at that hose clamp, look at that rust. It probably means there's some seepage coming out of that clamp. So this is obviously the time you want to change this, especially if you're changing your water pump. And this is what the hose looks like. It's a heavy-duty, thick hose that we take here in the shop and we cut to the proper length, and we include 2 brand new clamps of the right size. So this is something you definitely want to consider replacing, and you want to take a close look at this. Even if you haven't planned to do any work on the front end of your 560 engine, then at least come out the next time you have the hood open and take a close look at this little hose right in here. This is one of the most neglected parts in the whole cooling system. And here's another very important part that you should consider replacing since these cars are so old. This car only has 78,000 miles on it, and I can tell by feeling the resistance inside the clutch and the lack of play that this is probably okay. One of the things you want to do is when you test these, you really want to test them when the engine's warmed up, because when you heat this up and you have a loss of fluid inside this clutch assembly, this is going to start spinning freely. At that point, you should plan to replace it. This is the replacement fan clutch that we offer on my website, along with some instructions on how to install this. But I tell you, if you're going to do your V-belts, okay, if you're going to do those belts on your 420 or 560 engine, spend some time thinking about what else you should replace, particularly if your engine has over 100,000 miles and you have no history of any of this being done. Think water pump, think thermostat, think short hose, and think fan clutch.